Hey guys, today we are going to learn Tunisian Mosaic Crochet. Aren't you excited? Because I am. If you're already familiar with overlay mosaic crochet, you'll know that we have to cut our yarn and then we get this little fringe which needs to be covered up or dealt with. It's probably the biggest complaint people have. They love mosaic crochet, they don't like dealing with the fringe. Tunisian solves that. Tunisian still uses one color at a time. This whole row has been done using the cream. It still uses single crochets and double crochets, although technically with Tunisian crochet we call them something else. But the concept is still very, very similar. So let's learn how to do this. I would also like to point out before we get started, this is a regular crochet hook. You can get giant ones. Right? You can get ones that are super long. You can get two hooks. This one only has one hook. It's stopper at the other end. You can get cords. You can get giant hooks. They come in all different sizes, which is great. If you're doing a blanket, you're going to need a bigger size. But if you just want to learn the technique and you have a regular crochet hook, you can do this. I'm using a DK yarn. It's like a light worsted. According to the Craft Yarn Council standards, this is a 3 weight yarn, and my hook is a 6mm hook, so that's quite a bit bigger. With Tunisian crochet, you usually want to go up a size or 2 to stop this curl at the bottom. Okay, so I will show you how to start it, but first we're going to show you how to do the stitches. Hey guys, I know you're excited to jump right in here. I wanted to show you the end before we get to the beginning. So if you're familiar already with Tunisian crochet, you could probably use those timestamps and skip ahead if you wanted to just learn the mosaic part. If you've never done Tunisian crochet, the first thing you're going to notice is that all of these loops are on my hook, which is bizarre for crochet. So now that we have all of our loops on the hook, you can see that my sample here is small enough that I can use my regular crochet hook. I don't have to get a hook that has a giant cord. I don't have to have the hook that is, ridiculously long. These are for Tunisian crochet, and if you're doing anything larger, you will need a fancy hook. If you just want to learn this technique, you can start with your regular hook. This design has 16 stitches that can be repeated, a joining stitch, and an end stitch. In my written pattern for mosaic crochet, for regular mosaic crochet, we are just going to translate what it says so that you can do Tunisian. So my pattern is not written for Tunisian crochet, but you can use the instructions to do Tunisian. The first thing is our joining stitch. You can see along the side here, it's changing colors. Every other row uses the other color. When you do mosaic crochet in any technique, you're using one color at a time. So this purple is our main color for me today, and I'm just using all purple. The next row will be all of this cream color. So with Tunisian crochet, you are doing the first half of every stitch all the way across, and then you do the second half on your return pass. So we've got single crochets and double crochets that are waiting to be finished. That's not actually what they're called. In Tunisian, this would be a Tunisian simple stitch. This would be a modified dropped double crochet. Our return pass is very fun. We'll start there. The first thing we do is go through 1, just because it's our fancy little end stitch on the side. Now every other stitch we'll be going through 2 loops at a time. It basically locks the sideways stitch into the up and down stitch. Okay, so we go through 1 sideways stitch and 1 up and down stitch, and then we yarn over and go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, go through 2, all the way across. That is how we do our return pass. Now I know that's a weird place to start. You can skip through the timestamps if you like. I just wanted you to understand what you were getting into. And that's a nice place to start because then you know what to expect. Plus, I need to show you that at the end, now that we have 2 left, we are not going to do that final stitch. This is where we are going to switch colors. And all we do is bring up a loop of the other color. That counts as our joining stitch, our changing color stitch, whatever you want to think of it as. On the back, I have alternated these loops. They're kind of leaning, 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 leaning. So you're just carrying it up the side. So now my purple one, I'm going to put it on the other side and it's done. We're working now with this light color, which for me in the written pattern is going to be CC, contrasting color. On my chart, I have the charts in blue and white. So the purple is blue, this cream colored is white. Whether you use the chart or the written pattern, I am just showing you how to translate it into Tunisian. So a single crochet, which is my first stitch according to the written pattern, it says joining stitch, which is this loop. So the first actual stitch is a single crochet. And in this Tunisian, we're going to do Tunisian simple stitch, which means we bring up a loop. That's it. So you can see that all the stitches are these bars that are up and down. Those are the stitches that we're using. And a simple stitch, according to Tunisian crochet, just means that we are going to insert our hook into the bar and bring up a loop. You want to keep your tension not too big, not too tight. Too tight is going to get your piece rolling, so that's one thing to practice with. The next stitch that we need to know is double crochet. In the written pattern, the key tells you that a double crochet in the mosaic pattern is really a dropped front loop double crochet. When we translate that to Tunisian crochet, we are going to use a modified dropped double crochet. So just like in the regular mosaic crochet, we're not going to use this loop. We're going to drop it into the same color that we're using. So white will be dropped into white, a purple gets dropped into purple. And when we did the simple stitch, we went into the bar, and down here you can see that same bar. We are modifying this a little bit further because what we want to do is actually pick up the front and the back bar of just the white. There we go. And we want the return pass, those sideways stitches, to be above our hook. So now we are going to, so to do a double crochet, we yarn over and then we drop it down and we grab the front and the back. That return pass is above our hook. We yarn over, we bring up a loop. Then we yarn over and we go through two. That's the first half of a double crochet. But instead of yarning over and finishing our double crochet, we leave it on our hook, just like with the single crochet. My pattern then says 3 singles. So you can see this loop here is going to be skipped, just like when we did a regular mosaic crochet. So now we are going to do 3 simple Tunisian stitch it. Tunisian simple stitch it's called. I get them backwards. It doesn't matter what you call it. You know what you're doing. Your hands know what you're doing. 3 of them, you can count your stitches on your hook. Joining stitch, single crochet, double crochet, 1, 2, 3 more single crochets. We're going to drop it down under the return pass and get the front and the back loop. Bring it up. Go through the first 2 loops. Then we have a single crochet, a double crochet, a single crochet. You can see these loops on the hook. They do slide around. If you have so many stitches that it's going to fall off the end, you're going to watch for that. Mine is not going to squish to the end today. Where were we? Double. So I'm not using that one, dropping it down. Yarn over, do the first half of the double crochet. Then I have 6 Tunisian simple stitch, which on the written pattern says single crochet. We're just translating it. And our final stitch, it says ES for end stitch. I mean, you could repeat this if you had a wider thing. You'd be repeating those. End stitch along the side here. when you turn it this way, you can see all these V's, and it's handy when you're changing colors because you can see exactly the V that we're talking about. We are going to use this purple V. It changed white, purple. This is the stitch here, going under 2 loops because it's our side, and we're going to bring up 1 loop, sort of like the single crochet, but right in the side. And now we're back to doing our return pass. So just like I had shown you at the beginning, the first stitch on the side gets 1 loop. He's our return. He's nice and pretty. Then every other time you're going to go through 2. Yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2, yarn over, go through 2. And all the way across. So there's no cutting. We have no fringe to worry about on the sides. And when we're switching colors, you can see that I've picked it up and it's always just basically behind it. So put my yarn up, grab my purple one. Now the lines will be the same. So changing color / joining stitch, that's all. We're ready. We're ready for the next row. For me, row 4, it says using MC, that's our dark one. Starting with the joining stitch, it's already on the loop. The first stitch is a double crochet. So we yarn over, we're skipping this white one, going down here, and we're picking up the front and the back loop. Yarn over, pull up a loop. You can see that we have 3 on our hook, just like normally for a double crochet. We do the first half of the double crochet, but we don't finish the stitch. We're going to leave it on there. The next one is a single crochet. Then we have a double crochet. It is going under these loops. The purple return pass is above your hook. And that's it. That's Mosaic Tunisian Crochet, and I can use my patterns, the written pattern or the chart. Single crochet and double crochet, you're basically doing the same thing, you're just modifying it for Tunisian. And now you can too. I hope you're excited. I'm excited because I think it's great. If we want to combine our new skills with learning how to use the charts, this chart shows you on this row numbers which row is using which color. So we've got our main color, our contrasting color, main color, contrasting, main, contrasting. We're alternating every row. Rows 0 and 1 are technically foundation rows. So when we go to do the repeat, we're going to start with actually row 3 through 18. 18 and 2 are exactly the same. So I guess you could do 2 through 17 if you wanted, or 3 through 18. That's what you're repeating. And there is no joining stitch or end stitch shown on this chart. This is the whole repeat section. So we have a joining stitch, we do the chart as many times as we want, and then we have our end stitch. And just like Mosaic Crochet and the written patterns, when you see we're using blue on this row. So using our main color, if we see an X, we drop it down. If we don't see an X, we don't drop it down. It's a Tunisian simple stitch. The regular Mosaic Crochet, it's a single crochet in the back loop. X means we're dropping it down. No X, drop down. No X, drop down. Doesn't matter this colors, the square colors. Next row, now we're using our contrasting color. If there's no X, it's simple stitch. X means we're dropping it down. Non-X, oh, there we go, drop it down, drop it down. So what we're actually reading is the row below. You can see the X's all correspond to where we are covering it up. So we're using blue and we're dropping it down, we're covering it up. That's how you use the charts. Now you can do it. Go make pretty things. Okay, I also wanted to show you how to end doing your Tunisian crochet. So you've gone back and forth, you've got to the point where you're like, okay, I'm done doing Tunisian crochet. I don't want to keep making more rows. I don't need any more repeats. And you think, okay, I've come back to the beginning of my row. I'm almost there. I could have crocheted faster. I was too busy. Okay, so we've got to here. Normally you'd be picking up the other color. You're saying, I don't want to. I'm done. You can pull it over here and cut your yarn off, make a knot. That will be fine. If you wanted to, you could bind it off, essentially is what it is. Sort of like a knitting bind off, where you're going to pick up and go through both. Now you're just basically making a single crochet on top of your Tunisian simple stitch. And the bind off just looks a little nicer. It's not required, but it is a nicer option. And you could use purple for this if you'd prefer to keep the alternating technique going. I didn't really think of that when I was just grabbing the yarn just now, but whatever color you want to use, you can see that the top now has our nice normal looking crochet at the top, and it sits flatter than this Tunisian. This is just the top row. So you can leave it like this if you want. It is done, but this looks better in my opinion. So that's an option for you. Plus, once I get this single crochets all the way across, I can cut my yarn, and then I'm going to show you how you start a project, because we did this whole tutorial kind of backwards, mostly because when I'm watching tutorials, that's the information I want first. I want to know what the technique looks like. I want to know what it does. I want to see it in action. And then I want to go, okay, I'm ready to try this on my own. So that's why this tutorial is kind of upside down. You'd weave that in, then you're done. Now it sits nice as opposed to the other version. So you also have to cut off your other color, and you have to weave these tails in so that they're not coming undone, right? I'm not doing that right now. We are just going to jump into, I want to start a new project. Okay, so we've learned how to do the stitches. We've learned how to finish our project. We've learned how to translate from my written pattern or the chart to Tunisian version. But how do we start? It's very simple. We're just going to start with the number of chains across that are on the chart, plus a joining stitch and an end stitch. So in my written pattern, I say that it's a multiples of 16. Oh, I got too much yarn here. Come on. This heart, you can repeat it. It's 16 stitches over and over and over, plus 2. Foundation single crochet, 16 repeats, plus 2. If you're chaining with the regular mosaic crochet, you need your 16 multiples, end stitch, joining stitch, plus your turning chain, so it adds a stitch. When you're doing Tunisian crochet, you don't need the turning chain, so you only need to make as many as are on the chart, plus an end stitch and a joining stitch. Some designers include the joining stitch and the end stitch on their charts. My charts don't have that, so you need to add that. And let's pretend, for the sake of this tutorial, that we have our joining stitch and our end stitch, and maybe our multiples is of 2. So we've got 1, 2, and we want to do it twice. 1, 2. So that would be multiples of 2 plus our joining stitch and our end stitch. Then we don't need a turning chain. We simply grab those back loops that are already here. This counts as one loop on here. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one's already on here for the 6th. So we don't need to use this one. That is our turning chain already. And we just pick up the loops. We're using the back loops of the chain so that it's nice and pretty on the bottom. We're just grabbing the bump and pulling up a loop. We started with 6 chains for this pretend example, and now we have 6 loops on the hook. So we did 6 chains. The last one counted as our turning chain. The loop that was already on the hook counts as our first stitch. So this is now our joining stitch, our repeats of 2, we did it twice, plus our end stitch. And of course, in the middle here, I would have 16 for this project. Depends on what project you're up to. Now we do our return pass. The first one goes through 1 loop. The next ones all go through 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, except for this one here. Now that there's 2 loops, that's when you're going to grab your other color and you just pull it through. Now it's not attached to anything, so you have to be very careful with your tension at this point. Make sure your leaving it long enough that it's not going to fall through. Hold on to it. The purple one as well, we're just going to keep it so that the tension matches those other stitches. And we're going to begin. This is now the stitch on the side, the joining stitch. So our next stitch is here, this front bar here. And our foundation row for this color has to be all Tunisian simple stitch, or according to my written pattern, single crochet, right? So we just pull up a loop, go in the front bar, pull up a loop. We know there can not be a double crochet because there's nothing for us to drop down into. There's no white under here. So we have foundation row 0 plus row 1 using the other color. Remember our final stitch, we turn it and we see the V. We're going under both loops for the side. We pick up a loop. So we have joining stitch, end stitch, repeats of 2 stitches in the middle. And then we do our return pass. Go through 1, then we go through 2, 2, 2, 2, and switch colors. So this loop is still very loose. Don't let him fall out. We're going to keep our tension relatively even. And now here's where we could either do our single crochet or our dropped double crochet, going under that return pass and picking up the front and back loop. We pull up a loop and then we do the first half of the double crochet. We skip the white loop behind and we go into the next stitch. The final stitch, when we look at the side, we're going under both loops here, pull up a loop. And that's it. That's the technique. That's all you need to know. You can now use my charts or my written patterns. You know that when it says single crochet, you're doing a Tunisian simple stitch. When it says double crochet, you're doing a dropped or modified dropped double crochet, Tunisian something something. I don't know really what to call that. A Tunisian modified dropped double crochet, something like that. That's the technique. And now, that's it. You're done.